I invested $300,000 to build my house on my in-laws' land, and they threw me out like trash on my birthday for confronting their unfaithful daughter. When they returned from vacation, the house was gone. They called me, furious, demanding an explanation. I'm not the owner, remember? I replied, laughing. $300,000. That was my investment in what I thought was our future. My father-in-law had convinced me with that smile of his. It's just easier if we keep the land in our name for now. What, you don't trust us? We're family now. Like an idiot, I trusted them. The modular house turned out perfect. My wife, 7 months pregnant, admired it, stroking her belly. It's perfect. Our baby is going to be so happy here. I thought so too, that we were going to be happy. But I was wrong. On my birthday, everything exploded. My wife served me cake with that smile I now understand. I have a surprise for you, she said in front of all the guests. William and I have been together for 6 months. I want you to get out of my house. Tonight. The silence was deafening, all eyes fixed on me. I just stared at her, unable to process what I had just heard. My mind had completely disconnected. I couldn't understand what the hell was happening. Seriously, did you think I was going to stay with a no-future loser like you? She spat when I tried to react. You were only useful for paying the bills, you idiot. But this is my house too, I managed to whisper. This is our land, and everything on it is ours too. Now get out, my father-in-law spat. My mother-in-law threw a black trash bag with my clothes at me. I didn't even get a bite of the cake. They kicked me out of the house I paid for that night. Sitting in my car with that damn bag, I could only think of one thing. They were going to pay for all of this. I drove for 2 hours before stopping. I had no destination, I was just getting away from that house that was no longer mine. The reality was, I had suspected something for months. William came over too often. Work meetings became a routine, and she started dressing differently. But it's one thing to suspect, and another to have the truth spat in your face on your own birthday. I checked into the cheapest motel I could find. $35 a night was all I had left after my credit card was declined. How ironic. The guy who had just invested $300,000 in a house was now counting coins for a crappy room. The next morning, I understood everything. Am I speaking with Mr. Einar N? The voice on the phone sounded formal. I'm from Human Resources at the construction company. We need you to come in immediately. Abitech was our company. Obviously not the real name. William and I founded it 3 years ago, but he handled more of the administrative side while I focused on projects. He was the one who knew every detail of my accounts, my clients, my contracts. Mr. Einar, I'm very sorry to have to talk about this, the HR lady said, avoiding my gaze. But we have reports of irregularities in your accounts from the last project. Even though you're one of the founders, we can't overlook these accusations that affect the entire company. Her voice trembled slightly. Your partner, William, presented evidence of duplicated invoices, overcharges to clients who never authorized these amounts. She placed the invoices on the desk, my signature, my bank account, all perfectly forged. Mr. Einar, believe me, this is very difficult for all of us, she continued, nervously adjusting her glasses. But the board of directors has already made a decision. We are forced to suspend you indefinitely, while this is investigated. If the clients sue, unfortunately, it will be your legal responsibility. William appeared just as I was leaving the office. Brother, what a shame about what happened. But don't worry, I'll take care of your clients. He paused, with that mocking smirk of someone who already knew they'd won. And your wife, too. Don't worry, things are going to get tough for you. My phone rang before I could answer him. It was my sister. Einar, what the hell is going on? Is it true you hit Carla? What? I've never laid a hand on her. Apparently, she did a live stream this morning, and several clips have been circulating. I don't know what's happening, but I'm getting hate messages, threats. People are calling me an accomplice to an abuser. Are you sure you didn't hit her? No, of course not. It's all a lie. I went back to the motel feeling like a zombie. As if I didn't have all this crap to deal with, now this. I threw myself on the bed and checked social media. There was my ex, with swollen eyes, stroking her belly, talking through sobs about the violent man who threatened her when she discovered his infidelity. I didn't discover it. The nerve. You told me to my face. On my own birthday, I thought to myself. The comments were a hellscape. What a coward, hitting a pregnant woman. He should be thrown in jail. At that moment, I knew it wasn't just infidelity, it was a plan. Steal my company, my house, destroy my reputation, and leave me as the violent monster who lost everything for being a starving good-for-nothing. They wanted to shatter my credibility and leave me with nothing. I was the cuckold who was stripped of everything, but she was the victim. But there, sitting in that crappy motel room, with the smell of dampness and old cigarettes, watching them destroy me on social media, I understood something. This is how it works. If you're a woman, all you have to do is start crying for everyone to believe you. You don't need a single piece of proof. Even if I went out to clarify everything to the public, without evidence, no one would believe me. People on social media had already decided I was the guilty one and didn't hesitate to flood me with hate. I had to set my accounts to private. So many things had happened in less than 24 hours that my head was spinning, but I needed a lawyer urgently. I was being accused of fraud and embezzlement. I called Roberto and explained everything as fast as I could. Einar, this is serious. Come in early tomorrow with all the documentation you have, and don't say anything else to anyone until we meet. After hanging up, I remembered something important. 2 months ago, I had installed security cameras throughout the house, thinking about the baby on the way. I wanted to be able to monitor the living room, the dining room, my study, even the master bedroom, all connected to an app on my phone. And nobody knew they existed. With trembling hands, I connected to the cameras. What I saw left me speechless. There were my in-laws in the living room, arguing heatedly with Carla about refinancing a loan. They wanted to use the house as collateral to get urgent liquidity for their construction materials company. We need that money, Carla. Without that liquidity, we're going bankrupt, my father-in-law said desperately. I don't know, Dad, it's risky. You don't understand. We've been racking up debt everywhere for months. If we don't get that money, we lose everything. At that moment, William walked in like he owned the place. He had keys, he moved around my house as if it were his. Relax, he told them with that winner's smile. We've already gotten rid of the thorn in our side. Einar has been suspended for fraud. They named me interim president of AITA. The idiot is finished. Carla ran to hug him. Seriously? He's out of the game. Completely. By the time he figures anything out, if he ever does, we'll have everything in our name. My mother-in-law laughed. That starving good-for-nothing always thought he got where he was by his own merit. Ha! He was lucky to find a partner like you. I downloaded and backed up the entire video. They didn't know they had just provided me with solid evidence to bring down their whole web of lies. That night, I took out my laptop and started reviewing every document, every email, every transaction from the last few months. That's when I saw them. Contracts I didn't remember signing, invoices with my signature that wasn't my handwriting, transfers authorized with my name that I had never approved. They had been forging my signature for months. Now I understood why William always offered to help me with the paperwork when I was busy with projects. You focus on the fieldwork, brother. I'll handle the administrative side, he would tell me. Like an idiot, I trusted him completely. At that moment, I remembered Elena, William's ex-wife, from whom he had supposedly separated due to irreconcilable differences. We weren't close, so I never questioned that story. But out of curiosity, I checked her Instagram. Her social media told a completely different story: recent family photos, celebrated anniversaries, even a picture from 2 weeks ago with William at a restaurant. They weren't separated at all. Well. So dear William had 2 families. The next morning, I arrived at Roberto's office on time. I brought 2 USB drives, a folder full of printed documents, and the cold determination of someone who had already hit rock bottom. Einar, did you bring everything we discussed? Everything and more. I gave him the first USB. Let's start with yesterday's video. Roberto watched William walk in like he owned the place. He listened to the entire conversation where they confessed the complete conspiracy. His eyebrows shot up when my father-in-law admitted they were broke. This is solid evidence of criminal conspiracy. What else do you have? I showed him the second USB. The forged documents, the imitated signatures, the transfers I never authorized. William got too clever. This is corporate fraud on multiple levels. You know what you want to do? I want my company back, and I want William to pay for every cent he stole. Perfect. But there's something else you should know. Roberto pulled out some papers. I investigated your in-law's materials company as you asked. They're in worse shape than you thought. He showed me the public records. Construcciones H hadn't paid its suppliers in 3 months. They had pending lawsuits for $100,000. They need liquidity urgently, or they'll close in 6 weeks. That's why they want to refinance using your house. How hard would it be to make a purchase offer? Roberto nodded. A bankrupt company is worth whatever someone is willing to pay to save it from closing, and they're desperate. 2 hours later, I left with a complete plan. Roberto would present the evidence to the board of directors that very afternoon. Simultaneously, we would initiate criminal proceedings against William. And as the cherry on top, Roberto would use an intermediary to make a purchase offer for the bankrupt company. I went back to the motel and connected to the cameras. What I saw gave me the perfect opportunity. William was celebrating with champagne in my living room. Not much longer now, he said, hugging Carla. In a week, we'll be in Cancun celebrating that everything went perfectly. And the appraiser? My father-in-law asked. He's coming when we get back from the trip. By then, we'll have everything secured, and the loan will be a piece of cake. My mother-in-law raised her glass. To getting rid of that useless fool. And to our new life, Carla added, kissing William. I had exactly 1 week to prepare. I called my sister, Andrea. Remember that piece of land I told you I got a quote for when I was about to buy my house? I need you to acquire it for me. Are you crazy? Why do you want me to use my name? To protect it in the divorce. I'll transfer it to you later. Are you sure you know what you're doing? I've never been more sure of anything. All right, I trust you. I spent the next few days coordinating every detail. I found the perfect plot of land half an hour away. Andrea bought it without any issues. On Friday afternoon, I watched them leave for the airport, suitcases, laughter, celebrating their victory. After they left, Roberto called me. The board of directors saw the evidence this afternoon. William is suspended immediately. When he gets back from his trip, he's in for a surprise. And the criminal investigation is already underway. William is going to have very serious problems. It was my time. I called Don Mario, the next-door neighbor, a retiree I had befriended over the last few months. We always greeted each other, and occasionally had coffee in his yard. Don Mario, do you remember everything you told me about my in-laws? How could I forget, Einar? What they did to you is unforgivable. After everything you invested in that house. I need a favor. If anyone comes asking, just say that I do live there. Count on it, Einar. If they wanted to play dirty, I could too. On Saturday, I hired a locksmith. Don Mario was waiting for me in his yard. Are you sure this is your house? The locksmith asked, looking around. Of course. You can ask the neighbors. Look, there's Don Mario. The locksmith approached Don Mario. Excuse me, do you know this man? Of course, he's lived here for years. In 30 minutes, I had new keys to my house. Then the moving company arrived, 6 men with experience in modular homes. Are you sure you want to move the whole thing? Completely sure. I have all the ownership documents. The relocation and installation took 3 whole days. I told Don Mario what I was going to do but asked him to act like he didn't know anything if they asked. Count on it, Einar. By Tuesday afternoon, my house was completely reinstalled on Andrea's land. On Wednesday, I returned to the office. The employees welcomed me with relief. Mr. Einar, it's so good to have you back. That afternoon, Roberto called me. Everything is in motion. The divorce papers are ready to be filed with all the evidence. With the proof we have, Carla won't get anything. And the criminal complaint against William. The prosecutor's office already has the complete file. When he gets back from his little trip, he's going to find a subpoena. On Thursday night, I was in my new house when Don Mario called me. Einar, you're not going to believe the senior-in-laws made when they arrived. They were screaming like crazy that someone had stolen their house. They even asked the neighbors, but you know nobody can stand them. They also came to ask me if I knew anything, and I told them I didn't see anything unusual. Perfect, Don Mario. Thank you so much. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Hello. Don't play dumb, Einar. I know it was you. No one else had a reason to do it. The appraiser is coming tomorrow, and there's nothing to appraise. What house are you talking about? I don't have a house on your land. Don't play the idiot. The house you paid for. Ah, you mean my property. Well, of course, I did what I wanted with my property. Silence. As you yourself made very clear on my birthday, I don't own your land, so I decided to put my things where I do have rights. But that house was on our property, and that obligates you to leave it there. I never signed anything that said I couldn't move my property. Silence again. Oh, and about the bank appraiser coming tomorrow, I hope you have a good explanation for why there's no longer any collateral for that loan you applied for. I hung up. My phone didn't stop ringing the rest of the night. Carla, William, my in-laws. I didn't answer any of them. The next day, Roberto called. Construcciones H accepted the offer. $50,000 for the entire company. They signed without reading the terms. How are they doing with the loan? My contact at the bank tells me the appraiser arrived this morning and found the land empty. They cancelled the loan immediately and are considering legal action for attempted fraud. In less than a week, I had recovered my company, moved my house to a safe location, and bought my in-laws' company for a pittance. They didn't even suspect that I was now the owner of their business. And this was just the tip of the iceberg. They had no idea what was coming for them. It was time to contact Elena. On Friday morning, everything started to fall apart for them. First, I contacted Elena. A simple message with the most compromising video I had, William and Carla in my bed, completely intimate, followed by another video where they openly planned their future together while he promised to divorce Elena. No explanations, no drama, just the raw truth with one line, I thought you had a right to know who your husband really is. I didn't stick around to watch the show, I planted the bomb and walked away. But Don Mario called me that afternoon, laughing. Einar, you're not going to believe the scandal. A woman showed up screaming for William. I think it was his wife. The neighbors say you could hear the yelling from the street. Elena had exploded exactly as I had expected. William arrived at AITA acting like he was the owner. His marriage was falling apart, but he thought he at least had the company secured. He didn't know the prosecutor's office already had a file with his name on it and that the board of directors had already dismissed him. I had arrived at the office half an hour before him. When he saw me sitting at his desk, his face twisted in fury. What the hell are you doing in my office? You don't work for this company anymore. The entire floor went silent. Employees stopped what they were doing to watch the show. Oh, I don't. According to whom? According to the new interim president, he said, pointing to himself. Me. Interesting. I took out my phone. Roberto, can you come down for a moment? Bring the folder. Roberto appeared with documents and 2 security guards. William, Roberto said in a serious voice. We need to talk. Come with us to the conference room. Talk about what? I'm the one in charge here. Not anymore. In the conference room, Roberto laid the evidence on the table. The employees had crowded outside, watching through the glass. William, you are officially dismissed for corporate fraud. The board of directors reviewed all the evidence and voted unanimously for your permanent expulsion. William turned pale. This is a conspiracy. Einar is making it all up. Roberto activated the screen. The video played. William confessing he had forged my signature, planning how to steal my company, mocking me with Carla. The security camera footage doesn't lie, William. Neither do your own confessions. How? Where did you record this? In my house, I told him. In my living room. Cameras with audio in every room, including the bedroom where you slept with my wife. He collapsed into his chair. This can't be happening. Roberto continued. The prosecutor's office already has the complete file. Corporate fraud, document forgery, embezzlement. You're looking at 5 to 10 years in prison. William looked at me with pure hatred. You planned all this. Planned all this? No, William, you planned all this when you forged my signature to steal my company. You planned all this when you slept with my wife to take my house. I just did something you never did, have real, actual evidence. Not forged documents like yours. It was my company too. We founded it together. And you were going to steal it completely. Remember what you told me when I was suspended? That I was pathetic, that I would never amount to anything, that you were the brains behind everything. The guards approached. Mr. William, you need to come with us. William looked at me with a mixture of hatred and desperation. How could you do this to me? We were partners. You did it to me first. I was just better at it than you. The guards took him away in handcuffs. William was going to face years in prison for corporate fraud, document forgery, and embezzlement. That night, Carla called me, desperate. Einar, please, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I'm pregnant. It's your son. The DNA will tell the truth in the divorce. If he's mine, I'll fulfill my obligations, but I want nothing to do with you. William left. He says this is all my fault, that he lost everything because of me. I have no money. My parents lost their company. I have nowhere to go. They kicked you out. Interesting. They didn't kick me out, but they don't have money to support me. Their company is bankrupt. They say I have to solve my own problems. The irony was perfect. The woman who had publicly humiliated me was now alone and desperate. William left you. The great love of your life abandoned you when things got tough. He says it's all my fault, that I made him lose Elena and his family. Well. Turns out when he can't use my money, he doesn't find you so attractive anymore. Please, Einar, think about your son. He needs stability. If he is my son, he'll have both, but far away from you. You can't do this to me. Look at you now. You have money, you have your company, you can support a family. I have money because I got rid of the leech that was sucking it out of me. I was your wife. You owed me respect. Respect? Like the respect you showed me when you slept with William in my bed on my birthday. She was quiet for a moment, then changed her tactic. Einar, I know I made a mistake, but so did you. If you had been a better husband, if you had given me the attention I deserved. There it is. In the end, it's all my fault. That's not it. But everything is different now. You're successful. You have power. We can start over, for our son. Carla, do you remember what you told me on my birthday? That I was only good for paying the bills, that I was an idiot for staying with you. I was confused, angry. I wasn't thinking straight. You were thinking perfectly. You calculated that William would give you a better life than me. The problem is, you didn't know he was going to lose everything. Okay, yes. I thought he was a better option, but I was wrong. Now I see that you're the winner. The son of the winner. Exactly. And that is exactly why I will never help you. Why would I help the woman who destroyed my life? You chose your path, and I chose mine. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Suddenly, I heard a sharp scream on the other end of the line. Einar, it hurts. Something's wrong. I think the baby's coming. Drop the act, Carla. You've tried everything. Now you're faking a medical emergency. I'm not faking, seriously, it hurts. Something is happening. Right. How convenient. Just when I reject you, you coincidentally go into early labor. I swear I'm not lying. Please. Her voice sounded genuinely desperate, but she had lied to me so much I didn't know if I could believe her. If you're really in labor, call an ambulance. And then call William. It's his problem now. You can't leave me alone, please, it's your son. Maybe. The DNA will confirm it at the hospital, but I won't be there. I hung up while she was screaming my name. What she didn't know was that I had heard that conversation too, in one of the videos. William had told her clearly that the baby was his, that they had calculated the dates, but Carla had decided to make me believe it was mine to secure child support. Her last lie, like all the others, had already been discovered. The rest of the weekend passed in silence. No more calls from Carla, no news from the hospital. It was probably a false alarm, another desperate attempt at manipulation. Or maybe it really was labor, but that was no longer my problem. On Monday afternoon, when I arrived at the offices of Construcciones H for the meeting I had been so looking forward to, Roberto informed me that the in-laws had called that morning. Their daughter had complications during childbirth over the weekend and was in the hospital. They wanted to know if they could reschedule the meeting with the new owner. What did you tell them? I asked. That the new owner was only available today. It was now or never. They came anyway, desperate to keep some kind of job at their former company, and now with medical bills piling up. My ex-in-laws knew nothing about what had happened with William. They were completely isolated, focused on their business crisis and now their family crisis. For them, this was a meeting to meet the new owner who had bought their bankrupt company. The atmosphere was tense. Employees whispered in groups. Everyone knew the company had changed hands and that layoffs were imminent. Roberto was waiting for me in the conference room with a smile. At 4 o'clock sharp, my ex-in-laws arrived. They looked devastated. Dark circles under their eyes, wrinkled clothes, desperation written on every line of their faces. They hadn't slept in days between losing the house, the bankrupt company, and now their daughter in the hospital. Good afternoon, my father-in-law said, trying to maintain some composure. We're here to meet the new owner. Roberto stood up. Indeed. Allow me to introduce you to the new owner of Construcciones H. The door opened, and I walked into the conference room. The silence was deafening. My father-in-law blinked several times as if he were seeing a mirage. My mother-in-law turned pale. Good afternoon, I said, taking a seat at the head of the table. I'm the new owner of your company. Remember me? My father-in-law shot up. What the hell is this? Is this some kind of joke? It's no joke. I bought Construcciones H on Friday for $50,000. All the shares, all the debts, everything. I put the documents on the table. The question is, do you want to keep your jobs? This is impossible, my mother-in-law shouted. You don't have any money. You're a starving good-for-nothing. I laughed. The irony was delicious. Starving good-for-nothing. I pulled out Abitex's bank statement. This starving good-for-nothing just got back a company worth $3 million and bought yours for $50,000. Do you still think I have no future? My father-in-law collapsed into his chair. He finally understood the magnitude of what had happened. It can't be. The house, the land, William. It was all planned. Not everything. You gave me all the tools. The house was mine, so I moved it. William forged my signature, so I presented the proof. You were broke, so I bought your company. I just kept playing by the rules you set. My mother-in-law had tears in her eyes. Please, Einar. I know we were wrong, but this company is our life. We spent 30 years building it. And you destroyed it in 6 months. Unpaid bills, suppliers suing you, zero liquidity. I looked at the papers. But I'm generous. You can stay on. Working. Working. Working for you. My father-in-law turned red with rage. Exactly. As employees. Basic salary, no bonuses, no special benefits. Take it or leave it. I will never work for you. Perfect. I pulled out more documents. Then I'm firing you for just cause. Roberto here has evidence of all the accounting irregularities you committed. You can look for work elsewhere, though I doubt anyone will hire people with lawsuits for mismanagement of funds. The silence grew heavy. My ex-in-laws looked at each other, calculating. They had no way out. What would we have to do? My mother-in-law mumbled. Fieldwork, basic supervision. Hours from 8 to 6, 5 days a week. And you'll report directly to me. My father-in-law clenched his fists. This is humiliating. Humiliating. I stood up and looked him straight in the eye. Like when you told me I didn't own anything. Like when you threw me out of the house I paid for. Like when you called me a starving good-for-nothing with no future. My mother-in-law began to cry silently. You have 10 seconds to decide. Do you want the job, or would you rather explain to your creditors why you're going bankrupt? And to the hospital doctors how you're going to pay your daughter's bills? My father-in-law swallowed hard. We accept. Excellent. You start tomorrow at 8. Don't be late. I walked out of the room without looking back. I had turned them into my subordinate employees. The starving good-for-nothing now decided if they ate or not. That night, I returned to my new house and poured myself a whiskey on my terrace. From there, I could see the city glittering below. William was in pre-trial detention, awaiting judgment. Carlo was in the hospital with William's son. Alone and with no future. My ex-in-laws would start working for me tomorrow on a basic salary, calling me Mr. Einar and swallowing their pride. There was no going back for any of them. They had taught me that in this world, there are two types of people, those who trust and those who betray that trust. I used to belong to the first type. Now, I don't belong to either. They had thrown me out like trash on my birthday, but that day had been their birthday, and my gift had been perfect. It's been 6 months since that Monday at Construcciones H. Williams' trial ended last week. 5 years in prison for corporate fraud and document forgery. Elena got 80% of his assets. As Roberto had predicted, Carla never called again after that night she gave birth. Her son was born healthy. William's son, as I already knew. The divorce was settled without any problems. Since I had irrefutable evidence of adultery and she couldn't prove any shared assets, she left with what she was wearing. The house was mine, the company was mine. The judge was brutal. As part of the settlement, Carla had to publish a retraction on all her social media, admitting that her accusations of abuse were false. Seeing her old friends comment, "I knew it," was almost as satisfying as getting my company back. My ex-in-laws work for me every day, from 8 to 6. I hired a competent general manager to oversee Construcciones H, but I stop by twice a week to review reports and, of course, to watch them work. I see them arrive on time every morning I visit, call me Mr. Einar, and do exactly what the manager tells them to do. The first month, they looked at me with hatred, the second, with resignation. Now, they just avoid eye contact when I show up. The company they built for 30 years, I turned into my second source of income. The irony is delicious. Andrea transferred the ownership of the land to me last month. Now my house is officially on my land. What surprises me most is the peace. I thought having so much control over the lives of those who destroyed me would make me feel powerful, but in reality, I feel free. Last night, while reviewing the monthly reports for both companies, I received a message from an unknown number. Einar, it's Carla. Can we talk? I deleted it without reading the rest. There are moments when I wonder if I went too far. Then I remember that night of my birthday, when they told me I didn't own anything, and the feeling passes completely. In the end, it turned out they were right about something. I didn't own anything. Now, I own everything that matters. They had taught me that trust is a weakness. They were wrong. Blind trust is a weakness. Calculated trust is a tool. And tools, in the right hands, can rebuild an entire world. Reddit, do you think the justice I got was proportional to the damage they did to me? Or do you think I should have forgiven them and moved on?